Chappell.
This is David Dahmer.
This is Nicholas Garten.
This is Omar Waheed.
And it's 365 Amplified for Friday, May 2nd. How are we doing, everybody?
Fantastic.
Wet and late.
My back hurts. Madison's most beloved reporter once again lives in Madison.
Yay.
Yay, welcome back.
On the south side, so
Yay.
I can come to your things at night again.
Without having to commute.
From Waterloo, Wisconsin. I don't know if you know, but this is a place with 3,600 people, and there's nothing in it. If you want some, my favorite thing to do there was to leave.
Never been there.
No shade to Waterloo, but you're back
Oh
in
yeah,
Madison.
all shade. Waterloo. I did not enjoy it.
Did not enjoy living in Waterloo?
No.
But now you're back in Madison. This is good.
I know.
It's not good for our Waterloo listeners.
All 5 of them?
Yeah.
At most.
If that.
Generous numbers.
We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL draft because we have somebody who was there. And we're going to talk a little bit about AmeriCorps, and we're going to talk a little bit about some protests and some other stuff. But first, Dave's here just for this opening portion to talk about your experience at the draft. We said last week, Dave was at the draft. Dave told us he's not working.
No.
He's not covering it. But he generously agreed to sit in with us for a few minutes to reflect upon the experience. But, I mean, you were there as a Packer fan.
Yeah,
right?
And there were a lot of Packer fans there, obviously, but there were fans from every team. We're counting the jerseys, and I think collectively we found every jersey except for Jacksonville. I don't know what happened. Maybe Jacksonville was in a certain corner, but it was
maybe there was somebody there from Jacksonville who forgot to wear their jersey.
It could be, but it was crazy. A lot of Bears fans, a lot of Vikings fans, a lot of Vikings Favre jerseys.
Literally a couple 100,000 people.
Yeah, the first day was like 205, I think, and I think the total was 600 maybe by the time it was all done. I only was there the first day, and that was plenty for me, buying a $15 brat. It was a big brat, though, or it was long anyways, but it was the whole Titletown area was just kind of packed, and then obviously you could see where the draft was packed. We were at a friend's house with some Madison Mustang football players just off the stadium. So we got to the draft a little late, and that part, where everybody could see was already packed. So then we went to the stadium, which they filled up to like half full, and then they said they stopped doing that because they said this is our capacity. So we watched the draft in the stadium on the big screens, which was kind of nice because you can sit down versus like the other people who were in front of the stage. Crowded had to stand the whole time. But.
And there were some of the first round people were like the prospects were in Green Bay, right?
Oh yeah.
And where were they?
I don't know, some secret spot. And then they came down like a long tunnel, and but when the Packers took their pick, the whole stadium and obviously the whole area of the draft just went crazy.
You said Lambeau Field is half full. That's like 40,000 people. Right?
Yeah, no, it was half full. Because they got to open up all the concessions and they got to provide security for all that, and they're already providing security for outside. Even half of Lambeau Field is a lot of people. Yeah, it was, and it went nuts inside there when they said for the first time since 2002 whatever they drafted a wide receiver, and the whole place was just kind of like went crazy because the Packers normally are kind of boring. They drafted an offensive lineman or they trade down or a long snapper or they don't really draft the splashy player, and so it was exciting.
Matthew Golden from.
Yeah, he was
Texas, right?
Super fast, super good. Apparently, we'll see. And
we'll see if he's got what it takes.
What do you think, Nick? What do you think about that pick?
Oh, I think that was dynamite. I think that puts them over the top. I was watching it in a bar here in Madison and with some friends, and it was interesting because like 6 picks before, well, maybe like 5 picks before the Packers, we realized that Golden was still on the board. And I've been paying attention to him because I watch college football. And when I realized like that he was still on the board, I was like, that's the one. And then they took him. And we went nuts. We were the only people in the bar who were Packer fans or watched football. So we all started going crazy, and everyone else looked at us
like we were
what's
stupid.
Going on?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Not a good chance that they're going to be back in Green Bay anytime soon.
No.
So felt like it was the time to go and do it. If you don't like crowds, you probably wouldn't have liked this very much because it was everywhere you went, it was crowded.
Yeah.
But everywhere you went, people were just talking football.
Talked last week about Apache Danforth, local business, a United Nation member who, an entrepreneur up there, they opened a cafe, kind of by coincidence. Right around now, but they kind of like hurried it up to get it there for the draft, and I asked her how it went, and it was a dud. She said,
Yeah,
but she says all right because like, but the silver lining she put on it was we were able to not get too crowded for our regulars,
right.
which is great. But they're gonna have their big grand opening in a couple weeks, so I'm gonna go up there for that. But.
Imagine the whole city did pretty well,
Yeah.
with all those people in it, because the city's only 100,000 people, and to have that many people in it.
It's like
A lot of
triple
Airbnbs, obviously not enough hotels, and
Right.
people just people hopefully made some money. $100 to park, as you got
Jeez.
close, farther away you went, it was 75, 60, 50, and
They don't get that for Packer games.
no, and so
That's insane.
people made a little bit
I bet
of money. The locals did, I think.
There must have been Airbnbs in like Menasha and
Right.
Appleton and Nina. All did well, probably, huh?
I stayed in Sheboygan, which is my hometown, and that was an easy ride up and down,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I didn't really regret that at all.
I bet. But we also had to get in on the big discourse of the weekend was Shedeur Sanders, right?
Yeah, everybody that I was there was, everybody that I talked to knew a lot more about football than me, and I think I know a lot about football, but they were like into the draft and they know everybody's 40 time and everything like that. But that was the talk of everything, It's like, oh, when is he going to go? He's going to go 9 to New Orleans. No, he's going to go to Pittsburgh at whatever 21 it was. He didn't go in the first round. Well, he'll go in the second round right away, first pick, and then all that kept going and going until the 5th round when he was picked. So Nick wrote a nice little story about that at Madison365.org. What did you think about him going in the 5th round? Were you following him? And like the pundits had him, Mel Kiper had him going early. He's the expert.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be the number 2 pick. And so when I started following the draft, they were already at like pick 5. And I was like, well, where did Shedeur go? And I was like, he hasn't gone yet. And then it was just going through a list of the teams that need a quarterback. And once he didn't go to Pittsburgh, it was like, oh my God, like he's not getting picked. And so then they get in the 2nd round and all the same teams passed on him again and again and again. And at first, Shedeur is a little brash and he is not everyone's flavor.
He's the son of the brashest of them all,
Deion
Sanders.
No doubt. And so I'll admit, when he slid in the 1st round, I was laughing, making fun of Deion, being like, this is a repudiation of Deion.
Uh-huh.
But by the 4th round, it was like, no, now we're just like ridiculously being stupid as NFL owners and GMs.
But there were, the discourse was, he wasn't good in the interviews.
Oh, he's got horrible body language.
Yeah.
Like, even, have you ever just seen him, like, he's horrible body language.
But you can get away with that if you're really, really good, and he's not really, really good, is what people have said. I don't know.
In the eyes of a loving father, he is. And so that is, yeah, you can get away with it a little bit.
I don't have the expertise to evaluate a college quarterback. Is he that good or is he not?
It's tough. I mean, I thought he was good. I would have picked him.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the attitudinal things are awful, and Deion didn't help at all with holding him out of everything in the pre-draft stuff and
oh right, he skipped
comments.
the Senior Bowl because they just assumed he was going to go 1st round without anything, without doing the Senior Bowl or the Combine or whatever.
Yeah, but then you've got there's a section of people who are like, this is so racist against that strong black father, and I don't buy it for a second because I counted how many black people were picked before him.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, well, I guess it's not that because a couple of them are sitting next to their father.
Yeah.
At
Well,
the draft.
the idea of professionalism in an interview is kind of racially coded sometimes, that you're not acting the way a white CEO or GM wants you to act or would act.
With
But-
your feet up on the table and dark sunglasses on
Exactly,
and your
right.
shoulders scrunched and you're yelling because they pointed out a mistake of yours is transcendent of every race, guys.
very, well,
people were
very well said. Nick.
comparing him to Kaepernick, and I'm like, well, Kaepernick kind of stood for something. You know, he lost his whole career regularly talking about something, and it doesn't seem like, you know,
No,
Shedeur
it's
Sanders
not
really
that.
spoke out about anything like that.
It's not that.
But yeah, but there's people who said a lot of stuff.
No. Even President Donald Trump said
the
that
heck's going
Shedeur
on?
should be drafted. And so, just for our listeners, because especially for Madison 365, it's definitely not a race thing if even Donald thought that the kid should be drafted. Then you already know if Donald supports him, then the opposition can't be racist.
Right. It can't be. Well, it sounds like it was a fun weekend anyway, and we'll. Who else did the Packers even take? I wasn't even paying attention.
They took a bunch of no names after that.
Big offensive lineman, and they took another receiver who's kind of a gadget guy, but he's you know, he can run. He's rushing touchdowns and do things. I forgot his name already.
Couple defensive guys.
And they took 2 edge rushers after that, and then maybe a cornerback later. I don't know who they took at 7, but yeah, they needed like defense. I thought they needed a cornerback, but they didn't draft one until like 7th round. So that means Jair Alexander might be coming back. Or maybe-
The Packers are in good shape going
think
in the
so?
next season.
Do you think Jordan Love and Matthew Golden are gonna?
Yeah, if
Make
Love
it.
stays upright and healthy, they're in good shape.
Golden Love.
Exactly.
There's gonna be something
right.
with that.
Well, thanks, guys. Dave's got to head out, and we're gonna take a little break. And we'll be back right after this. And we're back, and thanks again, Dave, for weighing in on the draft. That was a lot of fun. A slightly less fun thing is, you guys know what AmeriCorps is?
A little bit.
Break it down.
Basically, it's like over 30 years ago. Like, I was in college when it was kind of getting going, and it's basically Peace Corps but domestic.
Mhm.
It's like you can get a job doing community service that it pays, but the pay is so low that the actual, like, Serve Wisconsin is the state agency that oversees AmeriCorps funding in the state of Wisconsin, and they didn't even call it a salary; they called it a living allowance. Like, that's how low the wage is. I talked to one person, one agency, Rooted, here in Madison. They oversee they have an AmeriCorps person on their staff who oversees the farm to school program in Madison at Lakeview Elementary and a couple other places. Making $18 an hour, so kind of living wage, you know, but nothing
It's
exorbitant.
like just barely.
Just barely. Like, and it's something you do because you want to do community service for like a year after college before you start your career, or like a year between undergrad and grad school, where you just do good community service, get some good experience, and you know, make enough to get by, and also get health insurance. So DOGE has struck Wisconsin. DOGE entered the AmeriCorps headquarters in the federal government on April 8th. So it wasn't a total shock when Jeanne Duffy here in Wisconsin, who oversees Serve Wisconsin, oversees the AmeriCorps funding, and got an email at 6:20 on Friday, last week Friday, saying that all of your funding is gone as of now. There are 430 people currently in those jobs as of Friday who are no longer in those jobs because as of Monday morning, she had to email all the programs across the state and say, stop doing what you're doing. I haven't heard how many exactly people that is in Dane County, but it's not insignificant. And there are people in Madison Metro schools who tutor kids. There's people who oversee the like I said, the farm to school program. There's people who work with homeless and runaway youth who are just suddenly out of a job because there are some states apparently where their AmeriCorps funding got cut by like 80%, 85%. In Wisconsin, it's 100%. Including, which is about $14 million a year, including about a $300,000 grant that they use to not even pay people, but just to help nonprofits do like recruit volunteers. That's all gone too. The staff office, there's like 4 or 5 people who work at this office overseeing this AmeriCorps program. Their part of their salaries also come from the federal government. That has not been cut yet, but I was talking to Jeanne Duffy yesterday, and she's like, we're not doing anything anymore. I don't know. we're probably going to get cut also. I shouldn't say they're not doing anything because what they're doing right now is basically trying to do what she calls hand-holding and like helping people through losing their job, first of all, but also trying to help some of the nonprofits and stuff get some private funding because it's basically like for a lot of the people, it's like an academic year program. So they only have like 1 month left anyway. So like Rooted, for example, they're one person who's in Journey Prack is their person that works there. They're just like, we're just going to pay you for the rest of the year. And then we'll turn to our donors to help us cover that. So in my story this morning, there's a link if you want to help Rooted, but yeah, it's rough basically, and it's such a small amount of money in the overall thing. They were Elon Musk was promising to save $2 trillion, and you do that by cutting this young person who makes $18 an hour, helping schools get fresh vegetables. It just doesn't make any sense.
So keep it up, Donald. Keep up the good work because, I mean, look at some of these states that they're cutting this in, including Wisconsin. We've got like Alabama, some of the places that he doesn't win this election without winning Wisconsin.
Right.
And so doing all of this dirt in all of these states that you needed to win the election is going to cost you the next one.
Well, and it's funny how when theoretical, like we're going to cut the government, we're going to, and that's in theory sounds nice, but then it happens in real life, and you suddenly your kid who has a one-on-one tutor to help them with reading, to get them up to grade level reading, and now that tutor is gone. That tutor was there meeting with the child on Friday, Monday morning they're gone. Like that's the actual consequence of slash and burn, cut, the sort of the Silicon Valley model of moving fast and breaking things. You're breaking things here in Dane County.
Well, speaking of Silicon Valley, where are all of these wealthy, rich people
right.
for, like what you were talking about, private funding, some of these federally funded programs or grants that we're losing? Mm-hmm. Can't some of our wealthy billionaire and trillionaire types maybe make up the difference?
Absolutely not. They never wanted to do any of that in the first place. They were virtue signaling.
Yes, right-wing virtue signaling. Now, the other thing about this is it's destroying trust in the federal government, which is also kind of part of the point, right? They don't want people to rely on government for anything ever, but there have been lawsuits filed. Wisconsin is one of, I think, 15 states as of today. I think there might be more that get added, who have sued the federal government specifically over this AmeriCorps funding. Because the thing is, AmeriCorps, which is the technical name of the agency, is the Corporation for National and Community Service, which is basically doing business as AmeriCorps. There is a process by which a grant could be canceled or defunded or whatever, and they didn't do any. There's a notice period. They didn't do any of that. They just said we're done. The excuse that made to the agencies was it no longer, like your grants no longer align with agency priorities. which
What's the agency's priorities?
Well,
not helping
our
people,
priority is to stop helping people.
national base volunteership
Right.
to uplift impoverished communities. Is that not within the government's purview of
Well,
what it's interested in?
I mean, at least on the AmeriCorps website, the priorities are still listed as the same as they were a week and a half ago. But that's just the excuse. But then the federal government, not surprisingly, has not gotten back to me. But they did reply to the Journal Sentinel in Milwaukee, and basically they used the three magic words: waste, fraud, and abuse, which there is no fraud or abuse in the AmeriCorps. I asked Jeanne about this specifically, and they did have one accidental $50 overpayment earlier this year.
Does that up?
But yes, but waste is something that is so subjective. Anything you don't like, you could call waste, right? But there is some AmeriCorps funding that is not registered, that is like attached to national organizations. So, for example, there's a Fresh Start program in Beloit that whose funding did not get cut, but they have decided we're not even going to do it next year. We're not even going to apply anymore because who knows what's going to happen. You know, and even if those lawsuits are successful and like this year's funding gets restored, you can't. How do you trust it? Like, how do you go forward as an organization, knowing that the government, the federal government, is not trustworthy to continue your funding? Which it's just a long-term chilling thing, which kind of sucks.
Which means it's time to join the Peace Corps. Have you always wanted to see the world and get your college paid for without having to shoot people? The Army's selling line. The Peace Corps, same thing. Only drawback is you can never work for an intelligence agency after. That's
oh, really?
Yes, it's like the Pinkertons.
I didn't know
if you
that.
work for the Pinkertons, you can't work in any government office ever. If you work for the Peace Corps, you are not allowed to join any intelligence agency ever. It's considered espionage, like you're building up contacts. But free college, and you can see the world.
But
join the Peace Corps.
But is that going to get cut too?
That's the whole world. That's everyone. I don't.
Is it federally funded?
I don't know. Maybe. I feel like it's a worldwide effort, though.
I think you're right, but I think it does get significant American federal funding.
Well, now Doge knows. They are avid listeners of us, and
they're coming for the Peace Corps next. We're going to turn the page a little bit and talk about some activities that are happening later today. May Day was yesterday, May 1st, and that's a day of typically a day where we celebrate labor, right? But also the Voces de la Frontera held a protest in Milwaukee yesterday, and today, this afternoon, 3 p.m. at Brigham Park. They're going to gather at Brigham Park at 3, march up to the Capitol at 4. This is their Day Without Immigrants strike, protest, rally, protesting basically all the immigration stuff, right? The deportations without due process, the arrest of the judge in Milwaukee, the Christine Newman Ortiz. They had a national press conference on Wednesday, wherein Christine Newman Ortiz is the director of Voces de la Frontera, talked about these wellness checks that are happening now, that FBI and DHS agents show up at a house and like, we're just checking on you. And they have heard of that happening in Waukesha and Whitewater and Milwaukee, and making the point that if it's FBI doesn't do wellness checks. FBI does not check on they're not going to check to make sure you're taking your medicine. Like, they're there to take you.
Their wellness check is, why did you threaten the federal government? That's
right.
Are you insane?
Right.
That's their wellness check.
So that stuff has been on the rise here in Wisconsin and everywhere. So they're basically protesting that. So if you're interested, that's happening this afternoon at 3 p.m. at Brigham Park. As you listen to this on Friday morning. What you find out about the Peace Corps while you were Googling?
I was looking up where its majority of its funding comes from. U.S. aid, which
USAID.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Peace Corps not the best option.
I mean, maybe not. Join the military.
This is a glimpse into the life of a reporter, right? Like we're like, I don't know. I have to find out right now.
Well, the Marine Corps is always taking people. So
right.
When the impending wars happen, you get free college after.
But when you ask a reporter a question, you're going to get an answer.
Of
right?
course.
And when you ask a reporter a question during a podcast, you're going to hear Google typing on the podcast, which is what Omar just did. While I was talking about the protest, he was finding out about Peace Corps because the question came up, so we got to answer it right now, right? Yeah. The other thing you were reporting on this week is ICIA has some stuff going on. This is the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association, right?
Yes. The ICIA. They are hitting the golf course for Masters of the Green. Cannabis and golf. That's what it is. It's a new fundraising effort. The founder, Rob Perot, likes golf in his downtime. Also really likes cannabis. So why not bring that together? There have been other Masters of the Green type golf tournaments. I guess it's just a generic name.
I literally just got the pun.
Yeah?
Master of the Green. The green being the cannabis.
No, they didn't come up with the name. It's apparently there's been a lot of these types of things.
Okay.
This is just ICIA's Masters of the Green.
I get it.
It is in Red Wolf Golf Club in Washington State, which is one of the few indigenous-owned golf courses. Apparently,
cool.
There is some. There's not an actual firm figure. There's an estimated amount of 55 through 80 indigenous-owned golf courses throughout the country, which is pretty cool.
That's very cool.
That golf course specifically sits on the border of Washington and Idaho. Idaho, notably, is a lot like Wisconsin in their prohibition stance, where they're just not willing to accept any legalization or reform or criminal justice reform on cannabis-related sentencing. So they're playing it pretty close. They're sitting on this tribal land that sits on the border and really talking about the ties that they can build and addressing issues that Wisconsin and Idaho both face. They do have a pretty star-studded cast there. Celebrity golfers Mike Lowe and Anna Berman. I don't know those people because I don't watch golf, but it sounds exciting. I do know the other person, Nathan Apodaca. Yeah, Dogface, the guy who made all those videos drinking juice, listening to Fleetwood Mac, skateboarding. He's there. Apparently, he's indigenous. I didn't know.
Yeah, he was. He was on Reservation Dogs.
Was he? I only saw one episode of that. Yeah. I keep meaning to. The first episode was great, but I'll get to it eventually.
Great show. Yeah.
But that's happening.
Cool. Well, but it's cool that ICIA that it's in Washington, right? So like nobody here is going to fly to Washington for that. But the point is that ICIA is a it's an organization that's headquartered here in Cambridge, right? But it's a national industry association.
Well, Rob Perot and I were talking about that because like you've been following us for the almost 3 years now. And you've seen the explosive growth. It's so cool. We're all the way out in Washington now.
Yeah.
There's people there who care about the movement that we're bringing to, bring some cannabis reform, especially leverage it for indigenous communities. And we're seeing it all over the country. And at this point, we're really just making our own map of places we've impacted and,
cool.
Hope to go throughout the rest of the country and spread ICIA, just golf right now in Washington.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for that, Omar. We are going to finish today's short podcast with a question that Steph is not in today, but she did text me a question. And we can pause.
I hope it's about 100 gorillas. I don't know if you've been keeping up with that conversation.
No.
Really? No?
No.
It's been all over all the social medias. Could you... 100 people versus a gorilla, do you think you could win? And it's been going on for like a week now.
100 people versus one gorilla?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know.
Well,
we'll think about that for next week. what was the thing that you were sure that you were right about and found out later was totally wrong?
This is a room full of reporters.
Yeah, professionally, personally.
Personally, I don't think we need to worry about professionally, but
Well, I personally believe I'm right about everything, even if I'm wrong in the moment. In hindsight, I was always right. You just don't know yet.
I can go
Nothing
first.
specific.
I can go first if you guys want to think about it. And I have another question that is that everybody else thought I was wrong, but I was entirely right, which is a better question maybe. But the thing I was sure about, and I still have this feeling that this is right, but I know it's wrong, and this is my dad's fault, because my dad knows nothing about sports at all. And it was something that happened in a baseball game on TV where it looked like the catcher or the pitcher caught the ball on a line and still threw the ball to first base for some reason. And I was like, if he caught it, that should be out. Why did he have to throw it? And my dad goes, it doesn't count when the pitcher catches it. And he just made that up. Like, he didn't know that. But I was like 7. So that, like, I still kind of feel like when the pitcher catches the ball, it's not an out.
Oh, that's good.
I still kind of I'm still like, wait, right.
So is it not an out if the?
No, it is.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. It's
of course. Why wouldn't it be? That
I don't know. My dad just made that up, and I believed it for my entire life.
Oh.
That if it pop up to the pitcher, it doesn't count as an out.
Have you not seen those great clips of pitchers?
Oh yeah,
fantastically catching a fresh hit off the bat.
Yeah,
doing like spins, grabbing behind their back,
it's saving their own life by catching a ball before it hits them in the face.
Yeah,
when it comes off the bat. Oh, those are terrific clips. And
but those don't count apparently.
It's not an out. You still got to throw it to first base after you do that. Apparently, according to me. Nick, you have anything that you were convinced was true, but or learned later was wrong?
The Lakers were eliminated last night, so that was an easy question. I mean,
you were convinced the Lakers were good?
Or we're going
to win the NBA?
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely. Funny. Would have bet my life.
I have a very similar one. The Knicks will have their year. I do hope it's every single year, but it hasn't happened yet. Next year of the Knicks. As I say every single year.
You've been wrong every year.
I've been wrong just like Spike. I have been wrong
I'm going to tell my funny story that I was right and everybody else doubted me. 1980s, like mid-80s, I was a little kid. I was like 11 or 12. And there's a lot of unrest in Central America at that time. And there was a protest in Nicaragua. And there was this big military vehicle. It was like a water cannon that was like dispersing this crowd. And on the side of that water cannon, and I see this like on ABC News, like this, not even cable news, I don't think, but like World News Tonight or whatever. And on the side of that water cannon was, I swear to you, a Smurf. The little blue creatures. And it was a very angry looking Smurf. It was like a Smurf in an angry pose and like yelling. And they cut away from that and never showed it again. And I was sitting there watching the news with my family, and I was like, did you guys see that Smurf on that thing? And they were like, what are you talking about? No. I insisted, and I trusted myself. This is the lesson, is trust yourself, people. And I knew that I had seen a Smurf on the side of that water cannon. And I brought it up every once in a while. And they always they were like, no, there's no Smurf on the water cannon. 20 years later, the internet is a thing.
Yes.
And every once in a while I would kind of Google it until I finally found it and I was vindicated. And it was real because what was happening, the Nicaraguan government had this water cannon thing that had like dyed water. And so not only were you going to get knocked over by the water cannon, you were going to be blue for the rest of the day because they, like, as part of your punishment or something.
Which is why they have the Smurf on it.
Right. We're going to turn you into a Smurf to punish you for protesting, right? and I immediately emailed it to my entire family. My brother Nate, who very graciously on the next Christmas took that photo and made it into an iron-on patch and gave me a pillowcase that said "Smurf you, I was right," with that picture on it. So that's my story. All right, folks, have a wonderful weekend. This has been 365 Amplified. Thank you, Omar. Thank you, Nick. Thanks to Dave. We'll talk to you again soon. 365 Amplified is produced and edited by me, Rob Chappell, and is a production of 365 Media Foundation, a nonprofit, local, independent media organization in Madison, Wisconsin. Wherever you're listening to this right now, hit the subscribe or follow button to get new episodes every Friday. And between episodes, get your latest news at madison365.org and follow us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Threads. Wherever you get your news, we'll be there.